Have you ever wondered who's really walking beside you when the forest goes dead quiet? Only one hiker walked out of the Bitterroot wilderness alive. Rescue footage shows two sets of footprints leaving together. So, who was walking beside him? Ethan Cole was 29 years old the last time anyone saw him alive. Standing at the edge of a place called Miller's Basin, 9 miles past the last plowed road in Montana's Bitterroot Mountains. He wasn't alone. His girlfriend, Maddie, 26, and his best friend since college, Jordan, 28, had driven up with him. It was 3 days before New Year's Eve. Ethan's father used to bring him to this exact basin every winter before he passed. And Ethan wanted one last trip there. He wanted Maddie to finally see the place that raised him. They should have turned around before they even got out of the truck. 20 minutes from the trailhead, the road curved along a ridge with a 100-foot drop on one side. Ethan felt the back tires lose the pavement for half a second. Just a flash of weightlessness, gone before anyone could react. "Black ice," he said, laughing it off. "Happens every winter up here." Nobody mentioned it again. The ranger station at the trailhead was empty, but the door was unlocked. The lights were on, and a mug of coffee sat on the front counter, still steaming in the freezing air. Nobody had signed the trail log in 6 days. A single sign was nailed to a post outside, half buried in fresh snow: "Backcountry closed, weather advisory." Someone had scratched a second line beneath it, freehand, like a fingernail dragged through frost. "Do not follow the man in green." Jordan laughed. "Kids messing around, probably." Ethan almost agreed with him, until he noticed the scratch marks weren't old. The ice hadn't even reformed inside the grooves yet. They went anyway. The woods past the trailhead were the kind of quiet that presses against your ears. No birds, no wind moving through the branches. Just 3 sets of boots crunching snow that hadn't been touched by anyone else in what looked like weeks. The hike-in took 4 hours. Ethan's watch read 11 degrees. But none of them felt it, not really. Maddie joked the adrenaline was keeping them warm. Nobody noticed that nobody's breath was fogging in 11-degree air. Not yet. By the time they reached the basin, the light was already dying behind the ridge. They pitched 2 tents on a flat shelf of snow Ethan remembered from childhood, ringed by lodgepole pines. A frozen creek 50 yards to the east. It looked exactly the way he remembered it. Almost too exactly. That night, around the fire, Jordan repeated a story he'd heard from a guy at the outfitter shop in town. 10 years earlier, a family of 3 got caught in a whiteout in this same basin. Rescuers found the father 2 days later, alive, walking slow circles a half-mile from their old campsite. He kept insisting his wife and daughter were right there beside him. The whole time, they'd both been dead for over a day. Maddie told Jordan to shut up. Everyone laughed anyway. Ethan didn't mention that his own father had told him almost that exact story 20 years earlier, at this exact fire pit. The fire caught fast that night, roared high, threw orange light against the tree-line, and gave off no heat at all. Jordan held his palms an inch from the flames and frowned. "Is it just me?" he said. "Or is this fire completely useless?" Nobody answered him. Ethan woke sometime after midnight to a sound outside the tent. Slow, deliberate footsteps, crunching snow in a perfect, even rhythm. Not walking, pacing. He unzipped the flap an inch. The clearing was empty, but circling both tents, pressed clean into fresh snow, were footprints, bare footprints, in 11-degree cold, forming one tight, unbroken loop. They didn't lead in from anywhere. They didn't lead out. 2 nights later, Ethan woke again, certain something was pressed against the outside of the tent wall. Inches from his face, a shape, a silhouette blocking the moonlight. standing far too still to be canvas moving in the wind. Something whispered his name. He tore the flap open. Nothing there, just his own held breath, fogging for the first time the entire trip. A small detail he wouldn't understand the meaning of until much later. In the morning, he didn't mention any of it. He told himself it was an animal, a dream, anything. Some part of him already knew that no animal circles a camp on 2 feet and leaves no trail approaching or leaving. They spent the day pretending it was a normal trip. Hiking, taking photos. Maddie asked Ethan to take her picture by the frozen creek. When he checked the shot afterward, something small made his stomach drop. At the tree line behind her, half hidden in shadow, stood a man, watching. Ethan hadn't seen anyone there when he took it. He didn't show her. That evening, Jordan wanted to head back early. Nobody argued. They packed by headlamp and started down the only trail in or out. The same trail Ethan had hiked a dozen times as a kid. 40 minutes later, they walked back into their own campsite. Same fire pit, same ring of bare footprints, same fallen lodgepole pine Ethan remembered climbing over on the way in. They tried again, a different direction this time, Ethan leading with a compass. The needle never wavered from north the entire hike. 40 minutes later, they were standing at the same fire pit. "This isn't possible," Maddie said, her voice cracking on the last word. That's when they saw him, at the edge of the clearing, half swallowed by shadow. A tall man in a faded Green Ranger's jacket, frost thick on his shoulders, like he'd been standing there for hours, days. He raised one hand, not a wave, something closer to reaching. They ran. They didn't stop until the fire pit was behind them and their lungs burned raw. When they finally turned back, the man was gone. So was the cold in Ethan's fingers, which he realized, distantly, hadn't bothered him once this entire trip. He didn't say that thought out loud. Some part of him didn't want to know what it meant. That night, Jordan wasn't in his tent. Ethan and Maddie searched for 2 hours by headlamp, calling his name into trees that swallowed the sound whole. They found him sitting alone at the frozen creek, completely still, staring down at his own reflection. Except the ice showed no reflection at all. "Jordan." He turned around slowly. His eyes weren't injured, weren't glassy, just distant, like a man remembering something instead of looking at it. "I think I already know," he said quietly. "I think some part of me has known since the drive up." "Known what?" Jordan wouldn't answer. He stood, walked back to camp ahead of them, and never brought it up again. The next morning, Maddie went looking for the granola bars she remembered eating for breakfast 2 days straight. Every wrapper was still sealed, untouched. She checked her phone. 0 signal since the trailhead. Battery at 14%. Exactly what it had read the entire trip. The lock screen clock read 11:47. It had read 11:47 for 3 days. Ethan checked his own watch. 11:47, Jordan's too, when Maddie grabbed his wrist to look. "What day even is this?" Jordan asked. "I keep thinking it's day 2. Ethan swears it's day 4. None of it adds up." Nobody had an answer. Then Ethan remembered the emergency beacon at the bottom of his pack. The one his father had drilled into him to always carry. He dug it out with shaking hands. The light was already blinking. Activated. He hadn't touched it. Not once, not since they'd left the truck. For one dizzying second, Ethan almost understood something enormous. A thought shaped like the sound of breaking glass. Then it slid away from him, the way a dream slips away in the shower the next morning. And he was just cold and tired and scared again. The ordinary kind of scared. The kind that made sense. "We need to leave," Maddie said. "Right now. All of us. Together. No splitting up." Ethan agreed. He didn't tell her what he'd started remembering in pieces. headlights reflecting off ice. The back tires losing the road for far longer than half a second. A sound like the whole world folding in on itself. He didn't know where those memories were coming from. He just knew they felt more real than a campfire that gave off no heat. They hiked for 6 hours along a ridge trail none of them recognized, desperate for anything different from the loop. The trees thinned. The wind picked up, sharp enough to cut, though none of them flinched from it anymore. None of them needed to. Near a rock outcrop above the valley, the man in green was waiting, not chasing, not hiding, standing in the open, like he'd known exactly where they'd end up. This time, Ethan didn't run. "Name's Hollis," the man said. His voice sounded far away, like it was traveling through water to reach them. "I've been trying to walk you 3 down this mountain for 3 days now." "Down to where?" Ethan asked. Hollis looked at him with something close to pity. "Down to where they're still looking for you." Maddie made a small sound behind them. Not quite a scream. She was staring past Hollis, down into the valley, where afternoon light had finally broken through the clouds. Half buried in a snowbank off the switchback below was a truck. Ethan's truck, crushed against a boulder, the back end folded in, exactly where the road had curved along the ridge 3 days earlier. The same spot where the tires had lost the pavement for half a second. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then Maddie laughed. Short, broken, more grief than humor. "That's why the fire never warmed us," she said quietly. "That's why nothing in my pack ever ran low. That's why the ice never showed us anything back." She turned to Ethan, and for the first time since the trailhead, she looked completely calm. "I think I have to go now," she said. "Go where?" Ethan grabbed for her hand and felt nothing close around his fingers. No warmth, no weight, nothing at all, like reaching through fog. Maddie smiled at him, sad and certain. Then she simply wasn't there. No flash of light, no dramatic disappearing act. She was just gone, the way a word vanishes the moment you stop thinking it. Jordan didn't look surprised. "I saw the truck 2 nights ago," he admitted. "By the creek. I didn't tell you because I thought saying it out loud would make it true faster." "Make what true?" Ethan's voice cracked. Jordan looked at him, something like an apology in his face. "That we didn't make it, man. None of us made it." Then he turned toward the valley, walked into the tree line, and didn't come back. Ethan was alone on the ridge now, with a dead man in a green jacket, and a truck buried in snow that held everything he'd refused to remember. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why am I still here?" Hollis stepped closer, up close in full daylight. Ethan finally saw the one thing he'd been avoiding the entire trip. Hollis cast no shadow on the snow. "Because you were driving," Hollis said gently. "Some part of you has been trying to outrun that every hour since. I've walked a lot of people down this mountain, son. You're the one who wanted to walk the longest." Ethan looked down at the wreck one final time, through the shattered windshield. Half buried under 3 days of snowfall, he could just make out a shape in the driver's seat. Still, waiting. His. "I can't fix it," Ethan said. "No," Hollis agreed, "but you can stop running from it." He held out his hand, the same hand he'd raised at the tree lean that first terrible night. The gesture Ethan had mistaken for a threat every single time. It had never been a threat. It had only ever been an offer. Ethan took it. Search and rescue found the truck 11 days later. Once the roads finally cleared, 2 bodies were recovered inside, preserved by the cold. The third, Ethan, was found 2 miles down the access road, seated peacefully against a tree, like he'd simply stopped to rest. The coroner's report said he shouldn't have survived the crash. Not for 11 days. Not with those injuries. By every medical explanation, he should have died on impact, in the driver's seat, right beside his 2 best friends. Nobody could explain how he ended up 2 miles away. One trail camera, mounted near the ridge to track elk migration, had captured grainy footage that same week, dated 3 days after the crash. It shows a lone figure walking the access road through blowing snow. Investigators noticed something in the footage they couldn't explain and eventually stopped trying to. For 11 full seconds, 2 sets of footprints form in the snow behind him. Maddie's mother still drives up to the trailhead every December, though she's never once gone past the sign. Jordan's old roommate says his phone still gets a notification from Jordan's number sometimes, late at night. Just a blinking dot, never a message. Always at 11:47. The following winter, a new sign went up at the Coldwater trailhead. Same warning, same paint. Rangers say they don't know who keeps scratching the second line back into it, year after year. No matter how many times they sand it off. Do not follow the man in green. Only one man was ever found on that mountain. Nobody has ever figured out who was walking beside him.